Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we have some good news that one should be very wary about at the same time as we get this information. As of a couple days ago, Trump has announced that he is withdrawing all troops from Afghanistan by Christmas, as this article out of The Guardian says. Trump's Afghanistan withdrawal announcement takes U.S. officials by surprise. Tweet calling for troops return by Christmas puts peace negotiations in jeopardy and was greeted enthusiastically by the Taliban. What an absolutely ridiculous precursor to this article that, of course, mainstream media would put up in the forefront. It just always, it's like, oh, well, when Obama's president, if he said that he wanted to take troops out of Afghanistan, which he did say on multiple occasions, and he said that he was withdrawing troops on multiple occasions, which we'll go into shortly, all the media says that's great, and then when Trump does it, it's a horrible thing. And as this tweet by Senator Rand Paul said today, just spoke with Donald Trump. He sounds great and wants libertarians and everyone across the country to know he is ending the war in Afghanistan. And then it continues on. It says, in his term, Donald Trump has already brought home thousands of our brave soldiers. He wants the rest home by Christmas and a stop to our endless wars. And this person named Freda Felcher says he's had 4 years. Only a schmuck would fall for Donald Trump. If the shoe fits, Randy. And, you know, there's a lot to be said there. That's true. I mean, look, of course, everyone remembers a couple of years ago when Trump dropped the mother of all bombs on Afghanistan. It was one of the biggest non-nuclear bombs in history. Absolutely tragic what that can do to a population. Luckily, it didn't affect as many innocent people as other droppings of bombs, drone bombings have in that region. But again, there's so much more to this story that people are completely missing on both sides. So I'm going to go into that and more today. But first, make sure to hit that like button, share this on social media to get around the shadow banning. Check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribe Star, Bitcoin, our CoinTree address with all of our cryptocurrency addresses. We have been completely demonetized and bankrupted by YouTube. So anything helps. $1 or more a month makes a huge difference. Joining our newsletter at www.iambanned.com. It takes 2 seconds to put your email in. We won't spam you, and it doesn't cost money. And of course, there is ways to find us on all of the alternatives like Flote.app, LBRY, which is now Odysee for the most part, and BitChute, where we are going permanently starting November 5th, 2020, because they are going to kick us off of YouTube, or we move over and tell everyone where we're going, right? And of course, you can get t-shirts from our Teespring store down below in the description and comments as well. Anyway, let's get into this a bit further. As this article from a few years ago in The Guardian says, Obama pledged to stop the Afghanistan war, but its end is nowhere in sight. And now, I know we all hate Wikipedia, but let's get into a little bit of the pretext to all of this for a moment, just in plain, simple terms, and we'll break it down better in a moment. As this withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan article in Wikipedia says, the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan describes a drawdown of the United States armed forces in the Afghanistan war and the plans after its post-2014 presence, when most combat troops had left Afghanistan at the end of 2014. NATO had planned on maintaining 13,000 troops, including 9,800 Americans, in an advisory and counterterrorism capacity in Afghanistan during the 2015 phase of the war in Afghanistan, and they were expected to maintain a presence inside Afghanistan until well after the end of 2016. In July 2016, in light of the deteriorating security conditions, the U.S. postponed the withdrawal until December 2016 and decided to maintain a force of 8,400 troops in 4 garrisons: Kabul, Kandahar, Bagram, and Jalalabad, indefinitely due to Taliban resurgence attempt after the Battle of Kunduz. The withdrawal was completed in December 2016, leaving behind 8,400 troops right after an election. And by the way, the Taliban was armed and funded by the U.S. government in the first place. They were propped up by the U.S. government in the first place, alongside the Mujahideen, Al-Qaeda, Muslim Brotherhood, ISIS. Literally everyone. They propped up Hitler against the communists, and then propped up the USSR against Hitler, and then armed and funded Mujahideen, later Al-Qaeda, against the USSR. I mean, they armed Iraq against Iran and then went to war with Iraq. They armed Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam before going to war with Ho Chi Minh. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. It's disgusting. But one thing I wanted to point out here is that why did Donald Trump wait until the election? Thousands have died over the last few years. And overall, the U.S. government has murdered, and yes, I said murdered, millions, hundreds of millions of people in the region. At what point do we not just consider the characterization of terrorism to be a little bit lopsided when government, this organized crime institution that we all claim is there to help us for some reason, even though they're the MVP of murder, go and kill all these people, and that's saving freedom? But you know, and attacking these entities that they armed and funded in the first place is going to war against our enemies. But then if people defend themselves, and look, a lot of these fundamentalist extremists in the Middle East, in fact, most of them are terrible people and do terrible things. But one has to really ask the question, they have this death count. The U.S. government has hundreds of millions of lives that they've taken out, and millions in Iraq. And it's just, what, over poppies? They're, you know, building up the drug war in the U.S. With heroin, massive amounts of heroin that's destroying a bunch of communities, the more poor communities that then end up on welfare and end up dependent on the government. Absolutely insane. So why wait until after the election? Well, we all know why that is. Now, should we all be happy for that? Sure, but I'd like to see it because I heard Obama say for years that he was pulling troops out of Afghanistan. I heard Trump say for years that he's pulling troops out of Afghanistan, and now it has to wait until after the election. And you know, we all know it'll help bring a bunch more libertarians and some people on the left, more classical, old school liberals, to vote for him. But I mean, also on top of that, often when they say they're pulling troops, they end up leaving a whole bunch of security personnel, which are almost the same as troops, in the region. And I've been in the Middle East, and I've talked to people who've witnessed this stuff and witnessed the U.S. government and witnessed all these other governments around the world sending weapons to ISIS and propping up the wars and destroying everything. And look, were people mad when they pulled out randomly out of certain parts of Iraq, even though they continue bombing Iraq in a war against Iran, which is insane, even though the Iraqi parliament voted them out and told them to leave, and the U.S. said they were there to help democracy, but then when people democratically voted to kick the U.S. out, the U.S. said, no, our democracy, not yours. But nonetheless, when he pulled out all these troops out of Iraq, everyone flipped out and they said, oh, well, why are you leaving? You leave us defenseless. But they created the problem in the first place. So it's not about being defenseless. It's about the U.S. government murdering millions and then walking away and then leaving destruction in their path. And they often end up nation building after that and installing puppet dictators and all that kind of stuff. We saw similar stuff under the Obama administration in Libya as well. It's insane. It's horrible. It's horrifying to think of what the children in those countries have had to go through and what they've had to live through. Just unbelievable torture. Let's continue on here down this path of links I got ready here. I mean, look at this complete moron. Rob Reiner, complete Trump derangement syndrome, says after 4 years of doing everything he could to curry favor, Trump finally got the endorsement he coveted, a full-throated backing by the Taliban. Wait a second. Rob Reiner, didn't you do, let's see, I got another link up here, a documentary on how horrible the Iraq war was called Shock and Awe? Didn't you do a film on that? Didn't you talk about how horrible the wars in the Middle East were? Oh, but when Trump does it, suddenly you're pro-war? Makes sense. It's like Hanoi Jane Fonda switches back and forth with whoever is president just for this pop culture image that's dying fast because no one buys the BS of these complete self-obsessed, aristocratic, lefty pieces of trash in the media anymore. It's just, why would anyone take Rob Reiner seriously? Meathead? Seriously? Really? Continuing on, Rob Reiner is the same guy who also was quoted as saying, why did we leave Afghanistan? It's because there's no oil in Afghanistan. First of all, we didn't leave, but though you seem to be against leaving now. Second of all, there is no oil in Afghanistan. Well, let's actually look into that. Spend a half a second. I don't know what's quoted. Half a second looking into this. Oil in Afghanistan. Let's see. Petroleum and natural gas. Afghanistan has 3.8 billion barrels of oil between Balkh and Jowzjan province in the north of the country. This is an enormous amount for a nation that only consumes 5,000 barrels a day. Okay, so that's solved. I guess they do have a bunch of oil. So how about we just all decide if we're going to vote on anything, instead of enslaving our neighbor, let's vote on everyone telling Rob Reiner on Twitter immediately, just shut up, be quiet, just stop it. Him and like Mia Farrow and, you know, all these other old time celebrities that are just past their prime and obviously a little out of it mentally. Anyway, the point is, we shouldn't have been in the Middle East in the first place. One of the most historic, beautiful lands in the world, full of very friendly people. Trust me, what you see on TV and what you see on the ground there are not the same things. You just get fear-mongering BS on both sides in the media regarding the Middle East, and it's not true. People have to go there and visit it for themselves and, you know, adhere to some traditions in certain places depending where you go, but the big cities are usually okay. But go there for yourself and witness it, though it's hard to in 2020, to be able to really say what it's like, because I haven't been to Afghanistan, so I can't really say what it's like in Afghanistan, but I know around that region there's just unbelievably amazing people who will let you in their home and feed you and give you a bed to sleep in and everything. Complete strangers, can't even speak your language. And it's totally polar opposite of what we hear about. And people expect everyone to hate Americans out there. A lot of people do, obviously, but it's not quite like you think. Most people don't think about Americans. They just try to think about their life, which has been ripped to shreds over the years, and they do whatever they can to survive and go on instead of going by the victim mentality, which so many people in the first world tend to do. So that should be said. And again, the idea isn't that, oh, he's pulling troops out. Why have they been in there for the last 4 years? Why have they been in there for the last 15 years, 20 years? Why were they there in the first place? Why was the U.S. military-industrial complex propping up both sides of the war to cause order out of chaos, perhaps? Of course. It's just insane. It's perpetuated. It's horrifying what's happened over there. And you know, you have this idea of the military-industrial complex, which unfortunately so many neocons for years, people who actually called themselves conservatives, supported, even though it's the biggest form of government you could possibly have, propped up hugely by the banking industrial complex and Big Pharma as well, who makes a killing off of all of this as well. Just huge lobbies, and of course the oil industry. But the oil industry is actually lower than a lot of the other big players like the banks and Big Pharma. So again, I'm happy to see he says they're being pulled out. It's insane to see the media saying that he's giving the Taliban the land. Like, it's like so inconsistent. But I'm glad to see him pulling them out, but is he actually going to do it? And why by Christmas? Just pull them out. Pull them out. And like, listen, stop getting involved in everyone's problems all over the world. It's what Ron Paul has been preaching for years, and he's been right for years about it. And for goodness sakes, we have millions dead. At what point don't you realize that you're torturing millions of people worldwide under the guise of helping people? It's Orwellian doublespeak. It's horrible. It's an old war is peace scenario that the media has been pushing for years. And the media should be held responsible, by the way, for inciting millions of deaths overseas. Seriously, we should all be talking about that as well. But we trust these people to tell us what we should and should not do on a day-to-day basis, from mask wearing to social distancing to hiding under a bed from every boogeyman. And when they can't push forward the idea of these other boogeymen anymore that the U.S. government created in the first place, they go after a lab-created invisible enemy, of course. Anyways, I really appreciate everyone watching. Make sure to hit that like button, check those links below, share on social media to get around the shadow banning, find our links to GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, our Bitcoin address. We have Bitcoin Cash and Monero and all those others, and a Cointree address, as well as Dash and many others. We also have a Teespring store with t-shirts and all sorts of merchandise, which you can help keep independent media alive. We're completely demonetized, completely censored, completely shadow banned, and we are going to be off YouTube entirely by November 5th, 2020, only posting trailers to our full videos on YouTube after that point. So make sure to find us on BitChute, LBRY, which is now kind of Odysee, which we have Odysee linked instead. It's a carbon copy of themselves. And of course, flote.app, flote.app, and join our newsletter at www.iamband.com. It only takes a second. Anyways, I really appreciate everyone watching. I am here in Montenegro trying to live as cheaply as possible, got rid of all my property, living out of a backpack so I can continue making videos for you guys. So I've sacrificed basically everything I have to be able to keep doing this. So I really appreciate any support we have. And I thank you so much for those of you who have been supporting and sharing and donating and all that kind of stuff. It means the world to us. It really does. So thank you so much. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. My friends, it is go time. We are completely demonetized on YouTube, and we depend on the viewer to stay alive and spread the message of freedom and truth. So check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, anything you guys could do to help keep independent media alive helps enormously in helping spread this message to the masses. So make sure to check those links. Donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen or below. We really appreciate anything you could do to keep us alive. You could check those links below for Cointree as well, where you can find other cryptocurrencies that you can donate and keep WAM alive. Find us on flote.app, flote.app, as well as BitChute and LBRY and Minds. We're on all the other platforms. We are leaving YouTube soon, so make sure to find us at those sites because it's the only way we can keep talking to you, the masses, the great people that actually care about the future of free humanity. Also, join our new newsletter at www.iamband.com. Anything helps at this point, guys. We need to support free information online. This is the most difficult time in our history, and it takes a lot of hard work to keep our message alive in the face of great evils that have taken over the propaganda news on television as well as on YouTube, where YouTube decides what you can or cannot see. We need your help, my friends. So I really appreciate anything you guys can do. Check those links. There's many ways you can help. Until next time, though, thanks, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.